Farm bankruptcies here in Arkansas have nearly doubled. The story in the media is that's because of Trump's trade war with China. And now that China has agreed to a deal, the crisis will pass. But that story is wrong.
The tariffs are a problem, but think of it as being in a coffin, and we're going to nail the lid shut. The tariffs are the final nail.
This crisis was here before he did the tariff thing. This is a crisis that's been building for decades.
Farmers here told us a bigger story. A handful of companies have built a global system in which they always win, and American farmers are lucky to break even. All supported by our tax dollars.
They're just laundering tax money. None of it stays in the local community.
And while our farmers are dependent on growing crops for countries like China, we import more of our food than ever.
The bigger story is we're very vulnerable to the whims of other countries.
With thousands of farmers on the brink, we wanted to know, how did this happen? And if a deal with China won't save American farmers, what will?
I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
So my son will not be the seventh generation on our farm.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Regarding all these farmers that are now crying about possibly losing their farms because they voted for Trump, this is why you absolutely should not feel bad for any of these farmers that voted for Trump. Now, the ones that didn't vote, yes, feel sorry for them, go support them, do whatever you need to do. But the ones that voted for Trump, do not feel sorry for them, and let me tell you why. I am a builder, and I've been building shit in Oklahoma City going on like 20 years now, and farmers are not stupid. If you have the ability to manage a farm and understand the weather, the climate, your machinery, the chemistry that goes into your crops, you are not a stupid person. You're just not. And especially when you come from generational farming, you have the ability to look ahead and predict what you need to survive. And so when you have two candidates where you have Kamala Harris on one side giving you a whole fucking list of shit that she's going to do for you and make your life better, and then you have Trump on the other side who can't even come out with a normal sounding sentence, and you still vote for that guy, and you are a farmer, you are either racist or sexist or both. And they're only crying now because now they are being treated exactly how they voted for other people to be treated. Got that? They are being treated how they voted for other minorities, people of color, everybody else, poor people, sick people. That's how they voted for other people to be treated. And now they're the ones being treated that way by losing their livelihood, their homes, their income, their farms. So do not feel sorry for them. This is exactly what they had coming.
Hi guys, welcome back to Prince Iche's Unfiltered channel. If you're joining us for the first time, you're welcome back to the chaos. To our viewers and subscribers, we appreciate your likes and comments and staying till the end. So guys, let's get into today's topic because something explosive is happening in Arkansas. And now, this isn't just your typical political drama. This is a full-blown economic uprising among Trump voters who say they've been pushed to the breaking point. Today, we are diving deep into the shocking meltdown, rocking Maga stronghold, the grassroots rage, and the economic storm that nobody nobody saw it coming. So guys, strap in because this one is wild.
Just say I was at all soybeans and $150 an acre loss. You're looking at $450,000 a loss for just doing my job. I'm paying an additional $450,000 instead of making anything. I've never seen a crisis like this. Without intervention, we're talking about generational loss of farmers.
In the last year, farm bankruptcies here in Arkansas have nearly doubled. The story in the media is that's because of Trump's trade war with China. And now that China has agreed to a deal, the crisis will pass. But that story is wrong.
The tariffs are a problem, but think of it as being in a coffin, and we're going to nail the lid shut. The tariffs are the final nail.
This crisis was here before he did the tariff thing. This is a crisis that's been building for decades.
Farmers here told us a bigger story. A handful of companies have built a global system in which they always win, and American farmers are lucky to break even. All supported by our tax dollars.
They're just laundering tax money. None of it stays in the local community.
And while our farmers are dependent on growing crops for countries like China, we import more of our food than ever.
The bigger story is we're very vulnerable to the whims of other countries.
With thousands of farmers on the brink, we wanted to know, how did this happen? And if a deal with China won't save American farmers, what will?
We watch the markets every morning at 5:45. I get up and listen to Standard Grain. And Joe says it's 5:45 in the morning and the markets are.
Scott Brown is a row crop farmer who grows corn, rice, and soybeans.
I want to know what the price of soybeans is, how much we've exported this week.
The price of soybeans hit a high of $17 a bushel 3 years ago, but this year it's down to $10. That means many farmers will operate at a loss, but not just for soybeans.
So for cotton, soy, corn, and rice, the average loss per acre is $150 to $350 per acre.
Adam Chappell farms 2,400 acres, about 2 hours from Scott. In September, Adam and Scott attended a meeting called for farmers to speak to their federal representatives.
Hundreds of farmers from across the state came to voice their concerns about the current state of farming.
It was a three-day notice on this meeting. We went from having 15 to 20 people to over 500.
We were in the start of harvest. For 500 farmers to get off of combines and go stand in a meeting is a big deal.
It was like a funeral in there. This is generations of farms teetering on the brink.
I'm in the worst shape right now that I've ever been in.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that is.
Without immediate government intervention, we're going to lose 30 to 40% of our farmers again this year. We lost 25 to 30% last year.
Farm debt is expected to reach $560 billion this year, a new record high. Facing pressure from farm states, President Trump has promised a federal aid package for farmers.
And we're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers.
Over the last 8 years, the federal government has sent farmers over $130 billion in emergency aid. But when you follow where that money actually goes, it reveals who's really profiting from this system and why more bailouts won't fix it.
So when I get an aid package, okay, that money will never come to me. It comes straight through my hands into whoever I owe the money to.
When federal money is sent to farmers who have debts, like Adam, Scott, and most small farmers, they quickly pass it on to the companies they borrowed from to buy the products they need to farm, like seed, fertilizer, and machinery. And the combined costs of those inputs have risen far faster than what farmers can sell their crops for on the market. Farmers pay 3 times higher on inputs than they did in the 1990s.
What has gotten us to this point is the mergers and consolidations of ag input suppliers. In 2015, Monsanto and Bayer merged. They were competing against each other. And that was during Obama's administration. They didn't do a thing about that. They let it happen. They let it happen. When I started farming, we had 5 or 6 Arkansas-based seed companies. Monsanto, there's none.
Now tell me why farmers in Arkansas are standing outside with their hands out again, begging Uncle Sam for money. See, when it's regular people struggling, rent too high, groceries too ridiculous, can't afford health care, the answer is always from these people, stop complaining, stop asking for handouts, and pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Farmers in Arkansas are crying out to the feds for stimulus money like it's open mic night. And look, I get it, because times are hard everywhere. But when you plant your crops, raise your cattle, take on the risks of farming, wasn't that a personal business decision? So why is it on me and you to make sure that that decision keeps paying out? Because see, when you and I make bad decisions, government doesn't cut us a check to make it right for us. Now let's connect the dots here a little bit. These are the same people voting for the same politicians who say government is the problem. Yet as soon as the tractors stop running and their profits dry up, government magically turns into a solution for them. Ain't that funny and ironic? The question is, do we owe farmers any help? Or do they need to practice what they preach? Figure it out. Tighten that belt.
Arkansas farmers are taking their own lives because of what's happening to their farms because of Trump's policies. And it's only going to get worse for farmers because this is all laid out in Project 2025. So in Project 2025, the plan is to roll back all of the protections that farmers currently have access to. Basically, there's different programs. There's insurance, crop insurance. There's these commodities programs. And most of these are either subsidized or paid for by the government. So farmers, if a small farm gets hit with, a weather disaster or something else happens where they can't profit off their crop like they usually do, they're backed up. They're safe. They can, float for another year because of these programs. They want to get rid of these programs. They want to take the burden of these programs off the government and put it back onto the farmers, meaning these small farms get hit with one disaster and they're fucked. They're done. Guess who won't be done, though, if they get hit with one disaster? Giant mega corporations, these huge corporate farms that have all the capital they need to float if they get hit with a disaster. They're not going to go under. What they're going to do is buy up all these little farms and consolidate them into these giant mega farms. That's what the plan is. And I know it's easy to be like, oh, fuck these farmers. They voted for this. This is what they get. But this isn't good for any of us if this happens. I know like the FAFO is delightful, but it isn't good for any of us. And it's scary. Like, these are the people that feed us, that provide our food, and we need them. And it's horrifying to see what they're trying to do to them.
Yesterday, there was a mandatory Zoom meeting between the Department of Education and all the directors of any daycares and early childhood education centers here in Arkansas. During that mandatory Zoom meeting, the directors of the daycares were told that the Arkansas voucher program was about to be cut significantly. Not to mention, this change takes place October 1st. Y'all realize that's next week. I'm going to post the letter from the daycare next. You can pause to read. So to break it down for you just a little bit more, I have a friend that uses the voucher program. She works full-time. Her boyfriend works full-time. They have an infant and a toddler. They are now going to be responsible for an additional $400 a month to pay for childcare. And the specific reason this voucher program was set up was to help working parents. In order to participate in this program, you have to work at least 20 hours a week, go to school full-time, or do both. Cutting this voucher program is only going to hurt the people who are already struggling to get by in the first place, the ones that are working and trying to provide for their families and require daycare in order to do their job or go to school. I wouldn't have been able to go to nursing school without the voucher program. I used the voucher program while I was working weekends and going to nursing school full-time, and I had my son. In the description of the video, I'm going to put the email address, the name, and the phone number of our state representatives, as well as Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We need to call and email them over and over and let them know that this cannot happen, that this is going to be extremely detrimental to our state, extremely detrimental to our economy as a whole, and everyone's going to suffer if this happens, mostly the children.
Do y'all want to know what hypocrisy looks like? Sarah Huckabee Sanders is so proud that this bill is going to be the biggest, most far-reaching conservative education reform in America. Just reading her words alone, she's promising to stop the meddling hand of big government cold at the Mississippi River. But yet you're bragging about being far-reaching and the government meddling in smaller communities. And her big push when she first got here was to put out an executive order prohibiting leftist indoctrination. Which, let me assure you, is not happening in Arkansas schools. I mean, we can't even get most of our teachers to vote Democrat. But if your goal is to stop political indoctrination in the classroom, but your big bill that you're so proud of is conservative education reform, because you definitely don't mean conservative in context of being financially conservative. You, from state law down, are enforcing political indoctrination on the learners of Arkansas. Can you out DeSantis on something other than the backs of children?
You know, one of the daughters of the Arkansas farmer actually reached out to me. You know, all the videos have been going around about all of these farmers that voted for Trump asking for socialism. She's like, well, my dad agrees with a lot of what you said, but I don't think it's fair to judge him. Well, I do. You know what she didn't say? I didn't vote for him, and my dad didn't vote for him. She goes, you shouldn't assume who he voted for. She knew exactly who she voted for. Don't whisper to me. So I asked her, tell me the people in the Congress and the Senate on the federal and the local levels that your dad voted for, and give me the names of the bills that he proposed for firearm reform and women's safety, and that's going to bring down the price of housing, and I will make a video. I never heard back. See, she and her dad didn't care about anybody else. She didn't care about the officers on January 6th. She didn't care about the children and innocent people in Gaza. She didn't care about Adriana Smith or Amber Thurman or women in Texas that have a 52% mortality rate increase because of Roe versus Wade. She didn't give a damn about anything. They only cared about themselves. And see, that same group of people demonizes Oh, the blue states. California is the 4th largest economy in the world. Between California and New York, we bring in $4.5 trillion in GDP. Wow, sounds like real shithole states, doesn't it? 40 million people live in California. Yeah, sounds like a real dumpster fire, doesn't it? Yeah, you just don't like it because we're successful. You guys are last in education, healthcare, everything. Because you keep voting for the same people in your office because you want to own the libs more than you want to make your lives better. You vote against your own best interest as long as you punish somebody else and somebody else suffers, instead of picking yourself by the bootstraps and putting people in power because you've been told by the white church that abortion and gay people are the worst. Well, it's funny how somehow they justify voting for a white man who's a felon and abuses women, is on his 3rd failed marriage, because I thought marriage was between one man and one woman. But I guess when it comes to the white man, as long as God endorses it, somehow it's okay. But Pete Buttigieg, the guy that's not a felon or doesn't cheat on his husband or didn't cause an insurrection or make fun of disabled people, somehow that's just a bridge too far. And this is why we're here. Because people like those farmers didn't care about anybody except for me, me, me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And all they do is love thyself. And now that you got called out for your hypocrisy, you don't like it. Well, that's too damn bad. Because there's a lot of people that are suffering, women, people that are disabled, people that have Medicare, because you only voted for yourself. So please, and I say this as a person of faith, shove your crosses right up your ass because nobody wants to hear it. When you start giving a damn about other people other than yourself, then you can call yourself a person, a Christian. You have yourself a white day.
A serious conversation needs to be had about political self-preservation and how conservatives straight up just don't believe in that shit. For example, there's a bunch of farmers in Arkansas, deep red state by the way, who are literally crying, like on the verge of painting their ceilings, begging Donald Trump for help because the tariffs, cutting USAID, it's destroying their farming business. These people are going to be out of work. But had they listened last November about how Trump's policies would have negatively affected them, they wouldn't be in this situation, right? These people weren't like basically begging the government for money when Biden was president, right? The best way I can explain how Republicans vote is that they treat it like a football team. They see Donald Trump and the Republican Party as the Kansas City Chiefs, and they vote for them every 4 years, even though they get nothing out of it. Not only do they get nothing, their lives get worse. Like, I literally can't count on either of my hands how many people I've talked to and be like, what do you believe in? They're like, oh, I think women have a right to abortions. I don't hate homeless people. I want things to improve, but I'm a Republican. I'm like, why are you a Republican? I've just always been that way. So what? You're a Republican because your dad was a Republican? Like, you know you can choose, right? You're not supposed to stick to one team forever, right?
Arkansas has been a long powerhouse for rural conservatism, a deep red state where Trump flag fly years around. But lately, something changed. Across the Ozark farm town and small communities, voters who were once Trump's most loyal defenders are now speaking out loudly about what they call an economic disaster zone, from skyrocketing fertilizer costs to collapsing local shops to entire industry, feeling the squeeze of Arkansas. Voters who once formed Trump's iron wall to support are now demanding answers. And the uproar, it's not quiet, it's not polite, it's explosive. At heated town halls from Fayetteville to Jonesboro, longtime Maga voters are confronting local leaders, staging rallies, and organizing online under hashtags like Arkansas Fed Up, Maga on Fire, Rural Revolt. And here's where things get really intense. Many of these voters aren't turning blue. They are turning furious. Furious at Washington, furious at their party, and furious that the economic future they were promised feels more like a mirage than a miracle. Some are calling it the biggest conservative voters' rebellion in years. With this Arkansas uprising spread to other red states, is this the start of a GOP earthquake? And for how long until the political establishment wakes up to the fire blazing in its own backyard? One thing is certain, the Arkansas Trump voters' uproar isn't just a story. It's a warning, it's a movement, and it's a sign that America's political ground is shifting faster than anyone imagined. If you want deeper analysis, real stories from people on the ground, and updates on the developing meltdown, hit that like button, slap that subscribe bell, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this the start of the Maga fracture or just a temporary storm? Let's talk about it. Thank you guys for staying behind and watching along. We appreciate you and see you on the next one.